welcome back, everyone. The convention, as I said, in Cleveland, the final night. Obviously, in the 10 o'clock hour, we'll be hearing from Donald J. Trump. He'll be introduced by his daughter, Ivanka Trump, among some of the other speakers that we expect to hear tonight. You'll hear Jerry Falwell Jr. that'll be speaking. Peter Thiel, an interesting speaker. He himself a billionaire venture capitalist, but also openly gay. It'll be interesting, given the party platforms, how that will go across. We also have other people in the business community. The CEO of Colony Capital, Tom Barrack's going to be speaking. He actually served in the Reagan administration. And also you're going to be hearing from others, including folks speaking to the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, Dr. Lisa Shin. We're also going to be hearing from the RNC chairman who gavelled us in, Reince Priebus. Also Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, Governor Fallon, the governor of Oklahoma, and we'll also get a motivational speaker potentially that'll come. I have to be honest, though. This was supposed to be, Chris, I thought, the glitzy affair, where they'd bring the biggest musical act, and she was adorable, but his Heavenly Joy, which was a 6-year-old, 5-year-old. My point is, where's the star wattage out of this? Where are the big names? I mean, think about the people who didn't show. Forget about every Republican nominee that was ever alive for president that isn't there tonight, or let alone Republican presidents.
Maybe they didn't want anyone to show up Trump.
Do you think that's it? Or you spoke to a lot of folks, how about yourself included? You certainly could have been in Cleveland. You said, no way, Jose, this week.
Yeah, I made a point of not calling any of my friends who would make me come. So I would. But you know what I would have liked to see? I would have liked to see a little more sweetness at this convention.
You don't like the lock it up stuff?
Yeah, I don't like the lock it up stuff. And I didn't like the, so, you know, this is our last night. I'd love it to be sweet. I wanted Trump's wife to come back the next night and say, you know what, I'd like to give you the speech I wanted to give. And she would have rocked the place.
Yeah.
It could have been 4 minutes, you know, and then it would have shown real courage. Yeah. I'm not excited about hearing from all the family. I'm not, you know, but I want to talk about, you know, the inclusion issue. Mm-hmm. It's hard for parties to include others because that means somebody has to give up something. You know, they have to give up a power position or something else. But when I got elected in '87, I sat down with Lee Atwater. Now, remember, Lee Atwater had this reputation of the pretty terrible Adam to caucus. And he said to me, he said, we're going in the wrong direction. He told me he regretted some of this stuff. He told me, he said, we've got to have open arms. And he was telling that to me because I was a moderate Republican, and he wanted me to know it. And then the next thing you know, he gets ill and dies. Mm-hmm. But so this talk about how we had to change, I mean, we've been talking about it for years and years and years, and we're not changing.
And part of the challenge is, Bill, you know this, the way that we have gerrymandered districts right now, and the threat of being primaried, and we saw this especially with the advent of the Tea Party, it's getting harder and harder to cross the divide on certain issues. I mean, the idea, and the congressman here, he was the co-author of the assault weapons ban back in '84, the sunsetted, obviously, but the point being that could never happen now, or it would be political suicide if that happened. Not even a possibility that you could survive it, even with a strong record.
And that's really being reinforced by the IE committees and the rest of the PACs. That, you know, it used to be that the money was principally in the campaigns. Now you have very well-funded organizations that keep track of who's voting where, and they'll slap you if you step out of line. The other thing, I mean, I work in the communication side of politics and write the words. You can't break through in the news unless you're dramatic and sensational and the shiny lure of the day. And so you use the hard-hitting language. The other stuff doesn't get picked up. The issue releases don't get picked up. White papers don't get picked up. The stuff that gets picked up are the hits. And if you don't use them, you don't win.
Democrats too. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to be a Democrat that'll cross the line right now as well, without also fear of reprisals come the primary, et cetera. So what I'm curious is, if you're Hillary Clinton tonight, what don't you want to hear from Donald Trump? In some ways, I would imagine that he'd rather he'd call her, tricky Hillary, or that she's a liar, and talk about the Benghazi and the emails and everything else. Like, it will probably go along the script. But if he shows, I think, a moderate voice, not necessarily in politics, but an acknowledgement of others that have been left behind and everything else, and takes a page a little bit out of Bernie Sanders, right? That would give me more worry if I was Hillary Clinton tonight than if I was being, blamed and castigated from everything from here to, Altoona.
I think you're right. He would probably attract more moderate Republicans and independents who are staying away from him if he did that, and talked about his moderate views on some social issues. But what he wouldn't do is he wouldn't satisfy the desire of Americans to know whether he was capable of being commander-in-chief. Again, we talked about this earlier, whether, his comments about, well, maybe we'll pull out of NATO, maybe we won't if Russia attacks a NATO country, come to the defense of a NATO country, even though that's part of our NATO treaty where we promised we would, and where Trump said in the same New York Times interview, maybe we'll pull our troops out of South Korea. Again, demonstrating a real lack of understanding about the complexities of the world and history. Trump doesn't seem to be a person who knows much about world history, military history.
You know what I learned that I never thought?
Or the complex nature of diplomacy.
The amount of people that are willing to give him second, third, fourth, and fifth chances that they would never afford to Hillary Clinton. Okay?
Well, that's a test.
And to me, there's something about him for some folks, not for a lot of folks. It's a non-starter. So much damage has been done. But to some folks who say, I like the shiny new thing. Come on, just tell me that you're not going to be crazy. That's all I need to know. Tell me you won't be crazy. And, oh, really? You were a guy who, pulled himself up by the bootstraps? Forget the dad gave him 10 mil. Don't let that get in the way of a good story. The point is, and they'll eat it up.
But that's based on two things. One, Trump's talent in making himself so attractive and appealing, and recognizing the anger and resentment of a lot of Americans, stagnated wages, and terror, and the threat of terrorism. But it also has to do with Hillary Clinton, too, and Bill Clinton, and their history, and their personalities, and what they project or don't project to the American people. So at the end of the day, I believe it will be who the Americans are less afraid to have as commander-in-chief.
Are Democrats a little worried, the ones you talk to? Or do they think that no matter what, there's a professional operation in Team Clinton? They've done the math. They'll know where they're going to put their resources, where they won't. They've got a ton of oppo stuff that they're going to make his life impossible for the next 3 months. Or are they like, we have such a flawed candidate that if he can just figure out on how to stop shooting himself in the foot, this guy could actually win?
The last point you made, Democrats are not taking this for granted, nor should they. It will be a close election.
We take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have much more. The convention underway right now. Some of the speakers will be coming to the podium shortly. We'll also be hearing very quickly as well from Andrew Whitman with a live report from Cleveland. We'll be right back.